Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Many of you know me as Mesbauddin Mahtab, Mesbah. What I do is that I usually write children's books. I translate the Quran and illustrate those with Lego and other toys. And I never imagined that my first live broadcast would be on anything other than this. I was thinking whether to speak about this or not because I am a nobody. I studied some tafsir of the Quran for some years as a kid, and I'm really nobody to speak on this. I am just your average Muslim. But you know that for the last week or so, the Muslim Ummah, especially in North America, has gone through a big crisis. One of our beloved scholars, one of the persons whom everybody should respect, who has done a lot for the religion. And you all know who I am talking about. This person, may Allah be pleased with him, he has done so much for the Quran. Nobody in the English-speaking world has done as much for the Quran as he has in modern times. And I want to speak about the scandal that has engulfed him and how we as an ummah should have behaved. And I get very emotional, and I get emotional on not too many things, but this has hurt me. And why it has hurt me is that I thought we were better than this. And normally I speak to kids and stuff, but this time I want to speak to their parents. And I want to just speak on three things, and I won't take too long. Number one is in the light of Quran and the Seerah, how we should have behaved. The second point is that we need to understand where this has come from and how as a community we should be aware of where it has come from. And I have spoken in other places on my blog and other stuff about the curse of extreme feminism that is affecting the Muslim community in North America, and it's a politically incorrect view, but it has to be said. And finally, the third point I would like to conclude by once again just taking a look at what happened. So when this scandal first broke, I didn't believe it. I refused to believe it, and even more than me, my wife was shocked. And when I told her about this, I'm like, look what they're saying. She had a very profound thing. She's like, what exactly are they saying? What are the charges? Who are the people? What exactly has he been accused of? And I thought we as a Muslim community, we have higher standards. We shouldn't have given in to this tabloid sensationalism. And again, I'm speaking as an average Muslim. I'm not a sheikh, I'm not a scholar, I'm a nobody. We have the best example in the seerah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have an example in the Quran. As parents, we should teach our kids two things. First of all, the Quran and the Seerah, and we don't do that nowadays. If we knew about this scandal would never have reached the epicness that it did. It's difficult for me to talk about without getting emotional about it, but look, if you look at Surah Nur, when was it revealed? The verses that I'm talking about. When somebody put a charge on our mother Aisha. And so I read, verses 12, and I thought this was it. Allah said what needed to be said in verse number 12 of chapter 24. And then I read the next verse. And I'm like, wow, Allah is becoming even more serious here. And then I read the next verse. And it's even more serious. And it just went on. The intensity went going up. And those who have started this, have they not read this? So, you know what? Let me just read you the English translation. So I'm using Sahih International. So this is verses 12 to 18, I think, from Surah Nur. So just think about it, like when you first heard of the scandal, and then think about these verses. Why, Allah is saying, why, when you heard it? did not the believing men and believing women think good of one another and say, this is obvious falsehood? Now when I read this verse, I thought this was it. But then Allah continues, why did they who slandered not produce 4 witnesses? And when they do not produce the witnesses, then it is they in the sight of Allah who are the liars. This is a very big thing. Ask, the scholars, the bloggers, the feminists who posted this scandal. It's just rumors. Where are the 4 witnesses? Exactly what is the charge? Time and date. We are not asking for the evidence. We are not a court of law. We cannot judge evidence. But there has been no charge. There has been no witnesses. There is no names. So when you say something like that, something big, and you don't fulfill this, what is Allah saying? It is you who are the liars. It is Allah who is saying it. It's in the Quran. And then, I'm not giving a tafsir or anything. The verses here look very clear. And then Allah continues. And if it had not been for the favor of Allah upon you and His mercy in this world and the hereafter, you would have been touched for that lie in which you were involved by a great punishment. So it's a mercy from Allah that Allah is not punishing those who started the scandal now. When you received it with your tongues and said it with your mouth, that which you had no knowledge and thought it was insignificant, while in the sight of Allah it was tremendous. Look where, and Allah is not done. And why, when you heard it, did you not say, it is not for us to speak of this? Exalted are you, O Allah, this is a great slander. Again, if you had the evidence, where is the charge? Where are the witnesses? What exactly happened? And Allah continues, Allah warns you against returning to the likes of this conduct ever, if you should be believers. And Allah makes clear to you the verses, and Allah is knowing and wise. And finally Allah says, indeed, those who like that immorality should be spread or publicized, amongst those who have believed will have a painful punishment in this world and the hereafter. And Allah knows and you do not know. So these verses are pretty clear. So again, coming back to our scandal, what do we know about Ustadh Nouman Ali Khan? He, as I said, has done unparalleled work in the English-speaking world with the Quran. Nobody has done much to make the Quran accessible to the modern youth as he has. And there is a hadith of the Prophet that I am paraphrasing, that if somebody in a position of responsibility does something wrong, he should be more forgiving than the average person. Now, I'm not going to go into the fatwa because I'm not knowledgeable to delve into that hadith. But again, let me go to the second point, the curse of extreme feminism. It's a politically incorrect point, but I want to make it, Those who spread the slander said, oh, we did it to protect women. We did it to protect, the words that were used was abuse, and the word that was used was predator. He is a predator, die. He is an abuser. This is something very serious. If there is an abuse, go to the police authorities. If there is an abuse, go to the law. And then, somebody clarified very minutely in some of the comments, oh, there is no abuse. If there is no abuse, it's all consensual. We are not talking about grade 12 kids here. We are talking about grown women. And this is why I say that there is a lot of things that is wrong with how we treat women in the Muslim community. I have said it many times and I will say it here now. We don't have proper space for them in the mosque. We don't have them on the masjid boards. They are not involved in the decision making of the community. And there are many things that could be improved. I remember in our local mosque once Ustadh Nouman Ali Khan came to speak. The women were taken out from their usual space and put into the basement and said, oh, you'll get a live feed. And that didn't work. So all they heard was an audio. So these are things that are wrong in our community. And they have to be fixed. But the solution is not, to import Western feminism, because the Quran is very clear. The men and the women are not the same. And I'm not putting one down or one up. I'm just saying they are not the same. So when feminism comes in, they want a female imam. They want inheritance rights to be 50-50 and so on. Now these are the things that we should guard against, and and you will see that who are the ones who have, enjoyed spreading this scandal. They are the feminists. They may call themselves ideal or a Muslimah, but what they have done is not ideal. It's idle chatter. And that is something that we have to guard against. And we have to understand, as a community, I thought we had higher standards. As soon as this broke, we should have said, where are your evidence? Where's your witnesses? What exactly are you saying? You're just spreading a rumor and letting our imaginations work it out. Nothing specific. If it's all consensual, it's a private matter, if it's true. And, I don't know the real story. There might be more, there might not be. And it doesn't matter. Because from what has been presented to us now, I have to defend the honor of my brother. And so should every one of us. If we had done that, either they would have had to come up with the exact allegations, or it would not have spread at all. What has happened is that the life's work of a man who has dedicated 20 years to spreading Allah's book is ruined. Now, I don't know what is the future outcome. I don't know what is the truth. And we all do what we can from our part for the religion, but it is Allah who has to accept it. If Allah does not accept our good work, that is our misfortune. So whenever we do good work, we hope Allah accepts it. And I know that when we make a prayer for another believer, there's an angel who says, Ameen for you too. So I'm going to pray that Allah accepts Ustadh Nouman Ali Khan's work, his life's work. I pray that Allah accepts it. I pray that Allah forgives his sins, if any. And we all know we all have sins. The only perfect human, he went to Allah 1400 years ago. The rest of us, we are all imperfect. So I hope Allah accepts his acts. I hope Allah forgives him. And I hope Allah makes a way for him to come back from this scandal, and this is a test, and Allah washes his sins away from this. So with that, I just want to conclude and say that we should stick to the Quran and the Sunnah. We should not spread idle chatter, and it's not involving us. We should not believe it. It's not just enough to say, silent. We should not believe it, and we should think good of the other person. If the other side has witnesses and a serious accusation, bring that forward and proceed with the law. Anything else, and you look at the people in our history, many of them have personal characters that we might think today are flaws, but it is there, and some notable people in history. So we keep the personal life personal, and we judge a person by what has he done for us, for the community, and we avoid words like, predator or abuse of power, which are not true by what has been presented so far. I wish you guys all the best. And may Allah forgive all of us of our sins, and may Allah always keep us firm on His religion, and may Allah always keep us on the right path. Ameen.